All right, the Mueller report has finally been released, although heavily redacted. And by now you probably heard all of this, that, and the other things about the report, and oh my god, it's fucking long. I've started reading through it myself, but I didn't jump to the juicy bits about Trump like I'm sure most people did. I started reading from the beginning about the whole Russian collusion part. And the one thing I find interesting is that it talks about Julian Assange a bit, and it kind of alludes to him being a participant in Russian attempts to interfere with the human election or with the American elections. Um, Either knowingly or unknowingly, it doesn't really specify, but there are a lot of heavy redactions around that area. So it could be that which is fueling the whole extraditing Assange and all the recent events with that. Uh, Also, I read in there that Trump, when he was asking Russia for the stolen emails, that later he said he was being sarcastic, and I'd mentioned about that before about him possibly getting impeached under that, and that one apparently slipped under my radar. So, oh well, you can't catch everything. Um, So now you have Elizabeth Warren filing impeachment papers proceedings, or trying to initiate impeachment proceedings in the House. So yeah, I mean, the thing about impeaching Trump is that I think a lot of people are more worried about Pence than they are of Trump, because Pence actually knows more about how the government works and he's actually smarter than Trump. So I don't know if we're ever actually going to see Trump being impeached. It would be interesting to watch and see if it happens. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, all the other talking points I'm pretty sure everybody's talked about before. So I'm not going to go under that. But still, under, over, whatever. Words are hard today. It's one of those days. um, like most days. Anyways, I did want to take a couple minutes and speculate, because you still have people in the mainstream media still pushing the whole Russiagate thing, and let's do a little speculation about this whole Russiagate thing and collusion narrative, and the whys, the why of why people are so hell bent on it. And some of these reasons may be reasons why, and some of them may not be reasons why. But I think it's important to look at all the different options and possibilities of something before we actually try to get a solid conclusion on something. So why could this whole Russiagate narrative have been perpetuated so heavily? Well, I mean, the easy answer is that not many people like Trump, which is, you don't. It's not really a good reason. You don't like somebody. I mean, fuck, a lot of people don't like me. You think I give a shit? I'm still gonna do what I gotta do, and whether or not people like me isn't gonna prevent me from still enacting the same purpose of why I started this whole campaign, which is bringing the country to a more direct democracy. So yeah, there's that. There's a possibility that there was actual collusion. I mean, Trump does have a lot of interest in Russia, financial interests, and from what we can tell, Trump seems to be financially motivated more than anything. And I'm going to talk about that a little in the next video. Um, there's there's also the whole idea that everybody spies on everybody, and everybody's always trying to mess in each other's elections. Okay, but that doesn't answer like why Russia specifically. And going back to the whole Trump Russia ties, the problem with all of that is that there's nothing beyond circumstantial. I think they said this in the Mueller report. There's nothing beyond circumstantial that actually proves any kind of conspiracy or criminal activity as far as that goes. I mean, a lot of people, and I still get people like yelling in my ear about, oh, why isn't this, that, and the other thing being done to Trump? Is it's because there's nothing concrete. There has to be something concrete. and I'm not gonna just say, oh well, um, I don't care if all the evidence is circumstantial. Just because I don't like the guy, I'm gonna say that he's guilty. You know, that's not how to be objective. You know, that's not how to actually have a society where your individual freedoms are protected as well as those. You know, you have to protect the freedoms of the people you hate if you want to protect your own freedoms. So let's get into some of the more not talked about reasons. Well, there is the whole old guard notion of you know, when I grew up, there was still the whole Iron Curtain going on, and Russia was the major adversary of the United States, and you know, a lot of the people that are older still hold to that fear, and I'm pretty sure Putin holds to that himself, at least in some regards. I mean, he was a former KGB agent. There's also what happened at the fall after the fall of the Soviet Union. You you had a lot of American interests wanting to go in there and take over properties and profit off of them, and the Russian oligarchs said, no, we're taking all that stuff for ourselves, and so the Russians were able to maintain control of their assets, unlike what happens with most other countries when the U.S. hegemon goes and manages to break things up. And you know, there is a strong possibility that the collapse of the Soviet Union was primarily due to the United States interference. I mean, I would definitely strike that as a very likely possibility, considering how much resources there are in Russia, you know, well, in the former Soviet Union, given how wide the territory is. But yeah, when Russia broke up, there was a lot of these American rich people that wanted to say, okay, we're going to go there and take everything for ourselves. And a lot of the Russian people said, no, that's not going to happen. We're going to keep it for ourselves instead, because it's ours. And you know, the rich people don't like that when they can't have things for free. You know, they show themselves for the 2-year-olds that they are. So what else? Well, having it a lot in the mainstream media, I mean, let's face it, the people only gravitate towards news that's exciting, that shows conflict and controversy, and that's not really the mainstream media's fault. It's just how it is, and that's part of why you have these life cycles in journalism, where you chase the hate, and then people get fed up with it, and then they go back to something else, or they start looking for something else, more positive thing. It's just ups and downs. But you know, as a way to survive and get ratings, you know, that's one of the reasons why you hear a lot about Russia in the media. Also, let's not forget the fact that the Con 6, especially the Consolidated 6 media corporations, they're basically backed by, owned by oil and pharmaceutical companies, which also would love to get their hands into Russia's resources, as I was saying before. And then there was something I was thinking about the other day is, what if the part of this was inspired through Chinese activities? The reason why I say that is because if you look at the way that dissenters against the Russiagate narrative have been handled, they've pretty much been handled the same way that the Chinese Communist Party handles dissenters, in that they've been blacklisted, censored, you know, unpersoned, you name it. This is part of part of how the Chinese Chinese Communist Party does things. Now, is it kind of a stretch to say that they could be the instigators of this? Yeah, but at the same time, with China becoming a one of the predominant world powers, I know if I were China, I would want to see the two other world powers go at it with each other and then pick up the pieces. If I had an interest in becoming the dominant global force like China does. So that was just something that I was kind of tossing around in the back of my head. I mean, not a whole lot of evidence for it, but you do have a lot of people in the American government, and especially in tech companies and some in media that are that cow to Chinese influence, let's say. So, but back to the Mueller report. Yeah, I don't know how much I trust the report overall. Um, Given that who did the report, Robert Mueller, as well as the narratives that are being tried to push one way or the other. I was watching one news channel before, Independent News, and somebody was saying about not letting this idea become prominent that the American president has been compromised by a foreign country. That's a possibility also. But yeah. So where do we go from here? Well, that's a good question. I mean, can we go back to looking at all the horrible things that the Republicans and Democrats are doing to this country rather than the mainstream media being distracted by Russiagate? Oh, that was another speculatory reason about why why the whole Russiagate narrative is so predominant, is to prevent people from knowing about all the ways that they're getting fucked by their own country, about their own political leaders, and it just goes to feed into why I want to abandon this whole duopoly that we have between the Republican and Democratic parties, and bring the country to a more direct democracy. Because we're getting fucked more and more in different policies. So yeah, I mean, some of those speculations are probably true. Also, all of them could be true in some part. None of them could be true, But like I said, it's important to look at reasons why things could be happening to understand how to better combat these things that are counterproductive to our society. So I'm going to leave it at that.